Is there any more mysterious idea for an artist than the conception of how nature is mirrored in the eyes of an animal? How does a horse see the world, or an eagle, or a doe, or a dog? In every painting, we want to use imaginative language to bring the children into a color experience. Rather than give direct instructions on how and where to place paint across the page, we want to focus on bringing the colors through beautiful and story-like language. Who doesn't love a good story? This does not mean we can't also include instructions on how to paint as we move along. When we work with the children, sometimes we can teach out of our direct experiences, and sometimes we have to rely on our imagination alone. In this case, what might it be like to be an octopus? Unless we are a deep-sea diver, it is likely that none of us have experienced an octopus moving across the ocean floor. But how do we get there? In this particular painting, I like to imagine that the yellow is like the light of the sun glinting on top of the surface of the ocean. Perhaps you have taken a boat out to sea, and perhaps you have a stone or a shell in your pocket that you cast out into the waves, and you can imagine that stone or shell slowly making its way down to the ocean floor. And this is how I bring the yellow in. Now the blue of the ocean begins to weave in with the yellow, and darkness begins to appear. And as we move deeper and deeper down towards the ocean floor, it becomes darker and darker. Slowly but surely, beautiful flowing fronds of seaweed begin to arise. And we're just allowing the colors to move and play with one another. As the paper dries, you can layer the yellow back on top of the blue countless times within reason. And now it's ready for our octopus to appear, which I would have not have mentioned to the children until this point. But even as I slowly begin to reveal its form, they know what is coming. Always bring the forms from the inside out as if it is actually or growing on its own. Don't worry about the colors needing to be photorealistic or true to life. You can keep layering and adding colors as you go. Now, there's always a bit of a tricky situation with the eyes, especially with an octopus, because you don't want it to look too cartoon-like or even alien. It can be really tricky for some children to control the eyes, so they move from having a beautiful gesture-like painting that they really love to all of a sudden feeling like they've ruined it if the eyes get a little bit out of control. So you can ask yourself if the eyes are a defining feature that really need to be there. In this case, with the octopus, it feels like they should be there. And if not, with something like a bear where the eyes are really small, you don't actually really need to worry about that in a painting. Notice how just a tiny bit of gold really makes the painting pop. You don't need to paint every single tentacle, suction cup. Just a few little bright dots really add something beautiful. Lastly, I want to refer back to the painting of the two deer and the quote by the expressionist painter Franz Marc. Although his work is more appropriate for high school students, as teachers, we can be inspired by his impulse and use of color. I think his work really encapsulates something of what we want to bring in the paintings that supplement the human and animal block. Marc was a true animal lover and expressed through his paintings, and especially through color, how he thought animals might perceive and experience the world around them. Although we wouldn't want to bring his work to fourth graders, nor paint with them in his particular style, it is still an excellent resource for teachers and an inspiration for working with both color and animals.